You are listening to the USDN on the DFPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. Some discoveries change history. Others change the people willing to risk everything to uncover them. Deep within an unforgiven jungle lies a mystery that has remained hidden for generations. Ancient stones with unimaginable power have become the center of a deadly struggle, drawing explorers, mercenaries, and those willing to sacrifice everything for the chance to possess them. But in a world where power always comes at a price, every step forward brings new dangers, and every discovery raises even bigger questions. For creator FrankWalk, that mystery has grown into Hellstones, a supernatural action saga in the making, and a story with a clear destination from the very beginning. Rather than chasing an endless universe, Hellstones was designed as a complete 13-issue journey, one where every revelation, every battle, and every choice moves its characters toward an ending that's been waiting since page one. With Hellstones #1 Into the Fray, now bringing readers deep into the world, we'll explore what it takes to build a long-form creator-owned series, how mythology and action work together to create lasting stakes, and why some stories are best told with the ending already in sight. Ladies and gentlemen, the Council of Nerds is now in session. Frank, welcome to the USDN, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I know we've been on the books for a little bit, and that light was driving me absolutely insane. But welcome, man. It's been, like I said, you've been on the books for a hot minute. The day of the show has finally arrived, and I'm always excited on the day where I get to talk to a new creator. So let's dive into it, man.
Absolutely.
But before we dive into Hellstones, let's start with you, Frank. Your creative journey has taken you through illustration, design, coloring, and publishing before you arrived here. What originally inspired you to become a storyteller, and when did you realize you wanted to create your own worlds instead of helping bring someone else's to life?
Yeah, I've always been a storyteller. I've always, even as a small child, I was always that kid that had a wild, active imagination. And I'm also a forever D&D player.
But you should be. I see your books in the back there.
Yeah, absolutely. So storytelling's just always been a part of my life. I just never knew beyond kind of the tabletop, like what I would do with it. Mm-hmm. So even when I wrote my original like story concept of Hellstones, it was just like a little one-page concept. I didn't know what I would do with it. And then 10 years later, I find myself in the indie comic space as a colorist, learning the production side of everything at the same time because you're kind of in it. You start to pick things up. And that's when it hit me. And I was like, you know what? This would be perfect to tell in an indie comic. So that's what I did. And I've just been kind of flying by the seat of my pants ever since.
Dude, the whole adventure is that way. But Pigmacast Studio has grown into much more than a personal creative outlet. What was the vision behind building your own studio, and how has that vision evolved?
Yeah, it's evolved greatly.
And it's a cool name, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, by trade, I'm a colorist, and I needed a space for my portfolio work and stuff like that. So that's when Pigmacast.com was created, and I used that as just kind of my portfolio place. And then, once I started getting into the production side and deciding that I wanted to work for myself, it just made sense to go LLC and to just keep what I'd already built brand wise, and go from there. So yeah, I started with a children's book, got that produced, and then started with Hellstones, and it's growing even beyond that. I'm working on an artist app for understanding and utilizing color theory in an easy way as well. So I'm
that's cool.
starting to expand beyond just the comic book space and really just delving into everything that I love to do.
Dude, that's really cool, especially the app, because that is one of those things where it's hard to do, to build out, but to build one about being a colorist and just color theory, like, geez, I've seen those textbooks. They're not fun.
The barrier to entry and understanding color theory is so complex and vast that it just made sense. So I was like, I have the knowledge, I have the know-how, and what I don't know, I have some good friends that are great coders and stuff like that. So it just made sense for my way to just kind of give back to everybody and just kind of make color theory easier to understand.
Dude, I like it, man. I like it a lot. But let's talk about Hellstones now. This is a supernatural action series built around ancient stones capable of granting incredible power, but it's also planned as a complete 13-issue story, which is really cool concept in my head. What was the original idea that became Hellstones, and what made you realize it deserved an entire series instead of a single graphic novel or mini series? Nobody wants to see your booty.
Yeah, like I was saying before, it started as like a one-page just writing exercise. Really, I was working a desk job and I was bored, and I was just like, all right, let's do just some creative writing. And I thought it was really cool, and but didn't know what to do with it. And then I kept finding myself over time coming back to it, and that's what I knew, that this was going to be something. I wasn't sure what, but it was going to be something. And then once I got into the indie comic space and learned more about the production side of things, I was like, this is the perfect fit. This needs to be a comic. This is the medium for this. And I didn't know how long it was going to be. But I sat down and just started writing. And that, for me, I had to commit to an entire story in order to know that I was going to see it through. With my ADD, like if I didn't force myself to hard commit like that, I might not have never done it. So that's what I did, and I'm whittling it down to originally what was it, like 20 books, and I was like, that's way too much. And then I got down to like 10 books, and I was like, that's not enough. And it was just a whole lot of like adjusting and draft after draft, and I finally landed on the 13 books plus book 0, but also the theme of Hellstones and all of that. I was like 13. That just made it.
Dude, that's
kismet.
Perfect. Yeah, like that's just And then to go back in. So you did the prequel first, right? And then jumped into issue 1. That's cool. A lot of people get like to issue 5 and go, I have a lot of unanswered questions. Let me do a prequel now. That way people can kind of see how we got to where we're at and answer some of those questions, rather than taking a whole page or 2 pages out of a current book to do a weird flashback.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't want to do that though. Like, it was an intentional thing because people don't know me. They don't know Hellstones, and I don't have that already baked in audience that's going to start reading it and start asking those questions in order for me to have the demands to do a prequel. So it's like, it only makes sense for me to just do a prequel now, do something light. It's only 12 pages, introduce you to the concept and to the characters, and start to develop that relationship and get that buy-in early in. It's worked out great.
Dude, no. And I wish more people would do that in a sense that recognize it early. or be far along into their own story written to go, I have questions at this point that need answered. Let me write a prequel to answer those questions. And we both been there. We've read comic books from DC, Marvel, Image, whoever it may be. And you get to issue 5 of it and go, I have so many unanswered questions at this point that I don't know what they're trying to tell me right now.
Yeah.
There's so much shit missing. And it's annoying. It's aggravating. And it's just, it makes you not want to keep the book in your pulls, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But with so many supernatural stories out there, what did you want Hellstones to offer readers that felt fresh and uniquely your own?
Yeah, really, Hellstones has kind of become a love letter to everything that I've grown up with and everything that I like.
Tomb Raider?
Absolutely. Tomb Raider, Indiana. I'm 45, so you know, the 80s, the 90s, like all of that. And that's really what it is, and I didn't necessarily think about like what's marketable or what do I think someone's gonna like. I was just like, man, this is just gonna be fun. I think I have something fun, and I hope people, you know, agree with me.
I always say, tell the story that you would want to read, right?
Yeah.
That's like the go-in philosophy, is tell the story that you would want to read, have the art that you want to see, the vibes you want to vibe with. To me, when I see the covers and everything else, I get, what if Indiana Jones was Lara Croft?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, because you have like, it's very Indiana Jones-esque.
Yeah.
But you have a female antagonist. And I'm just like, dude, that's the vibes I get. And I told you beforehand, I have not had a chance to read it. That is like my going in plan for this week, is to sit down and read issue 0 and issue 1 that I'm so happy that you sent over to me, because I always appreciate getting the book to read. And I promise you, they're going to get read. I just had a weekend. Woof. And I was telling you about my weekend. I'm not a plumber by trade, but I've been plumbing all weekend. But let's introduce everybody to Hellstones #1, Into the Fray. And when's the Kickstarter for this start? I don't know if I caught that.
It started July 1st, so we're coming up to the tail end of it.
Okay, well, shit, I need to hop on it then. So the Kickstarter is Hellstones #1, Into the Fray, which builds on everything readers experienced in book 0. For someone discovering the series for the very first time, where does this issue take Sam's journey, and what can readers expect when they step into the fray? See what I did there?
Beautiful. So yeah, so if you haven't read book 0, you don't need to. It's not required reading for book 1. I do a little bit of a flashback scene in there that kind of gets readers up to speed, but I do offer still book 0 in my campaign. So if you want to get some more of that delicious lore and character building, it's there for you.
Mandatory.
But yeah, Into the Fray is really about Sam trying to locate her missing mentor. And that's what takes her to Brazil. That's his last known location. And, you know, as she's looking for him, come to find out there's someone else already looking for him as well. They have a pack of mercenaries out there looking for him, running through the jungle. And Sam is caught right in the middle of that whole thing. And it's just action right out of the gate in this book, which I had to do. Book 0, there was no action at all. But there was the promise of action. So I had to make sure that right on page 1, we're jumping in. So it's a pretty fast-paced book. It definitely has that Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones like action vibe, especially with it taking place in the jungle. But she's really forced. The reason why it's called Into the Fray is because she's ultimately forced to have to confront these mercenaries. You know, her whole gig with the Hellstones is to kind of stay in the shadows, stay on the move, stay away from people, be undiscovered. Because if she's holding on to her Hellstone, that means somebody else doesn't have it. But here she is at a crossroads, and she's forced into the fray and forced to have to fight.
Dude, that's that right there. That's how you give a quick 2-minute down and dirty right there. That's gold. What did producing Book Zero teach you that directly influenced how you approached issue 1?
It's been a constant learning process for me. Just because I'm not a writer by trade. I'm a colorist, so usually I'm like one of the last people in the process. So I'm getting handed completed products. So
Yeah.
I have to kind of work backwards and figure out what it means to build a panel, what it means to set up pacing. I'm used to determining mood and emotion through color, but I had to learn how to work backwards on that and build that process. So Book Zero was great for me to be able to do that and take that into Book One. Luckily, I like a lot of like action movies and stuff like that. So I quickly realized that the beats and the pacing of film really work well for comic books and storyboarding. And so I was able to lean on that a lot. So it's a constant growing, learning, evolving.
I don't want to be censored on YouTube later, so please forgive me. But you're the creator, writer, colorist on Hellstones, which means you're involved nearly every stage of bringing this book to life. Take us behind the curtain for a minute. What does the production pipeline for a typical issue of Hellstones look like from the initial idea all the way to a finished comic into readers' hands?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it started with me writing about 300 pages of just standard story. And then from there, I had to, like I said before, kind of break it down into what made sense as far as how many books it would be. And then I take that 300 pages and kind of just break it into 13 chapters, so to speak. And then from there, I've got to do storyboarding. And I do storyboarding or scripting first, really. I take all the text and convert it to script.
Yeah.
And then once I have that, then I start doing storyboarding. And I'll do storyboarding just down and dirty. I'm not the line artist on this. I hire somebody else for that. So that's where that communication and relationship really is important. Because sometimes I might just throw a stick figure on a panel, or I might even just write some text on there like
this sounds like some shit I would do.
Yeah, like stab guy in face, and hope that they understand it. And then I send it off for pencils, and then they come back and I give my editing notes, and then we move on to inks, and then I get that, and then of course I got to flat it, color it, letter it. Do all that fun stuff. But it makes me wear a bunch of different hats. Because I'm doing the letters on this. I'm doing the final polish, editor-in-chief. I'm doing it all. It's just easier to say writer, creator, colorist, but I'm doing everything except for the line art, really. But that, as an indie creator, you kind of have to do what you can to save cost. Yeah. We're paying for this stuff out of pocket. We all have our day jobs as well, so you do what you got to do to cut corners on cost where you can.
Oh no, I feel that 100%. Like, everything. Same. I feel that stress, and with me wanting to write a couple of books myself, I'm like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
How do I fund a comic book while also doing this, which I don't make any money off of? It'd be different if I was making some money off of this to offset cost of stuff, but I don't. This is me. And at this point, it's for the love of the game, right?
Right.
And but no, hopefully someday this will fund my books and everything will be gold. But until then, keep paying me, please. As both the writer, the colorist, and letter, do you ever find one role influence into others in ways that readers maybe wouldn't think about?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like Hellstones number one is there's a lot of green and yellow and orange, and that's me as a colorist writing for that. You know, I know it's going to be centered around Sam and her green Hellstone, so I want green to be a big focal point.
Yeah.
But it's also action. So in order to evoke that like fast pace and high energy, you have those yellows and oranges and those exciting colors. So as I'm writing, I'm also compartmentalizing and balancing with my colorist brain at the same time. And so I know almost immediately as I'm writing, like what color is going to be used, what my palette's going to be, and things like that. So a lot of that stuff, most people aren't going to even notice. But that's definitely how my brain works.
Dude, that's actually really cool. Like I've read hundreds, if not thousands, of comic books, and probably, and I'm not even talking Kickstarters and indie books. There's probably another 100 plus right there of just indie books and Kickstarters. But now I would have never like put two and two together. And now it's got me rethinking things. Like I want to go back and reread some books now to see, like do the colors match what's going on in the book? Because I've never thought about it.
Right. It's more of the technical side of things. As a reader, you just want something that's going to be eye-catching or whatever. If a sad moment feels sad, that's great. You might not know exactly why it's feeling sad. Is it the words on the page? Is it the expressions of the characters? Is it the color? Is it a combination of everything? And it likely is, but as a reader, you don't need to know the technical. You just need to feel it and connect.
This is what I love about these types of interviews and getting to talk to people from different walks of life. You're a colorist. So you're literally sitting here telling us how you approached colors on your book. And now it has me thinking like, I need to go back and look at some other books just to see if it matches. Like find a sad comic book or a horror comic book. I know in horror you get a lot of blacks and purples and reds and yellows and those mixtures of those colors. But now I want to go back and read like some of the other stories that have sad scenes and just look how they did the colors, or Action Comics I have, and see how they did the colors in those. Cause now I'm curious, like, do other colorists do this as well? I mean, I'm sure they do. Yeah. But from a psychological standpoint now, it's like, now I have to do this. I have to pay attention to this now because it gives me another aesthetic to think about in terms of comic books, right? Like I always look for Easter eggs. Like people talk about reading comic books. Oh, I read a comic book in 10 minutes. That's cool. It takes me like 30 to 40 because I'm literally like, I'm sitting here like bring the light over. I'm looking at the page. I'm looking for Easter eggs after I've read it. I'm looking for those little nuggets of things that maybe will influence a few pages later, So, but now I'm going to start looking more at the colors as well, because that's such a cool thing that you're doing, or you just told us that now I have to pay attention to colors now, because before, like you said, as a reader, the colors are cool, but the colors are what's, it pops it,
Yeah. It, what am I trying to say? In color theory, like that's like the emotional side of it is so important. I mean, in part, that's why your superheroes classically are primary colors. Yeah. And the villains are the complementary colors to that. Is one, because printing capabilities, back then or whatever, you were learning. But also because those are the colors that excite and that tickle your brain in those fun ways. And you never know. Someone might never know why they're excited by something until you talk to someone like me.
Dude, no, that is fucking cool. Pardon my language there, but no, that's freaking cool. And just like another feather in my hat now, as I read comic books, to pay attention to And I love learning cool shit like that. That's my favorite part about these interviews is learning cool shit like that.
Yeah.
But what part of producing an independent comic do you think readers or maybe even aspiring creators underestimate the most? And to me, what you just told us about colors is like such a fantastic answer. But if you want to give another answer to that.
Yeah, I would say maybe in general, it's both a lot harder and a lot easier than you would think. It's so easy.
It's like running with scissors and hoping you don't fall.
Yeah. Because I mean, the barrier to entry is so easy. Mm-hmm. Just create, just do it. You're never going to have the perfect moment. No one's going to knock on your door and say, "Hey, buddy, it's time." So just do it. It's easy in that regard. But if you want to do it at a certain level, it's harder than you think. There's a lot more that goes into it. There's a lot more considerations as far as, you have to be willing to take feedback and have a thick skin. You got to be willing to learn and grow and be wrong and pivot. Yeah. And the financial side of it is a heavy burden. I'm a fan of comics first, and I back Kickstarters, I back crowdfunding and stuff like that. So I know what it's like to be on the receiving.
I got my super backer badge.
Dude, awesome. Yeah. So I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of that. And sometimes you're backing a comic and you don't know if you're ever going to get it. It just happens.
I've not had that issue, man.
So
I know recently on a video that one of my chairman's cuts I was telling you about, somebody had mentioned it was from the Ben Lacey interview about finishing the book first. And like somebody had commented on that particular one saying, hey, it's cool that he is finishing the book first because that guarantees the backer they're going to get the book.
You got it.
He's like, I've been on both, and I understood where he was coming from, but thankfully I've never had that issue. Now, have I waited a year for a book?
Yeah.
Yes, 100% I have. But also that creator was like every month, hey, here's the status. Here's what's going on. Mm-hmm. We had a problem with this printer. We have to flux to this printer. And, we were expecting to be able to use this type of paper. So we're having to flex and use a different type of paper now. And they were like spot on. Every couple of weeks, once a month, they were like updates. There was no doubt in my mind that I was not getting this book because they gave updates. Like, even if you just said, hey, I haven't heard from you this month, you think you can give us an update? And he was like, boom. Next thing you know, 20 minutes later, post. So they did a freaking amazing job at just keeping people updated.
Yeah, well, those are also reasons why, it's both easier and harder than you think. Those little production pipeline bits.
Yeah.
That you might, I'm just going to send it to the printer. We're good. Well, what happens when there's a hiccup? Did you learn?
I mean, we just
learn about what paperweight you need and how to pivot and
So a lot of people don't think about paperweight.
No,
until it's time to actually go to the printer with it, and then they're like, "Wait, paperweight? What the hell is paperweight?"
Yeah, guess what? You're about to learn something.
Yeah, you got your weight on the covers. You got your weight on the pages. How do you want them to be? Absolutely. And one influences the other, and one costs more, and one costs less.
Yeah,
none of it's cheap though.
No. But to kind of circle back to what you were just talking about, I fund all my comics up front for that same reason. Yeah. I don't want people that want to read my stuff to have to wait. I understand that Kickstarter was originally built for kickstarting something, like getting the funds to hire the people to make it happen. Mm-hmm. But with IndieComics, it's a lot harder to do that. It's a lot easier to build trust in your product and in your brand and in your book. If you've already told everybody, hey, I have skin in the game. I footed the bill for this in advance. Yeah. So you're going to get it. The only thing we're raising funds for is, production cost and shipping. And then beyond that, anything that I can recoup would be great. So
it goes straight back into the next book, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen both sides of that story. I know people who are kickstarting to kickstart.
Yes.
Yeah, they funded the first 5 pages to give you a proof of the concept.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. And then if that Kickstarter didn't fund, that book was never getting made.
Then that's the bummer right there.
It is the bummer right there, but at the same time, I see both sides of the coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where a lot of people go, "Oh, I backed this book." Like, yeah, but the book didn't fund, so you got your money back, so it's not a big deal. It's not like your funds were stuck in purgatory.
Right, of course.
You get the money like immediately back. I've had that happen.
Yeah.
I've had one that didn't fund, and guess what? My money was back in the account within 24 hours or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So it's not like as soon as you make your pledge, they give the creator that money. That it doesn't work that way.
No. The way I see it though is this is a story that I'm going to tell regardless.
Yeah.
It's something that I want to get out there. I'm doing it purely for myself. And I want other people to enjoy it as well. Hence the Kickstarter.
Come along for the ride, right? Come along for the ride.
So that's why I'm also okay with, fronting everything myself first and then trying to recoup on the back end. Because I'm going to tell this story anyway. Yeah. That'd be great if I could make a little money back. And if I don't, that's okay. It sucks, but I'm going to still keep going. It's not going to stop me. So.
Hey, that's what cons are for.
Yeah, that's a whole different beast, but yeah.
Granted, you got upfront costs at cons too. And I know I had a great conversation with Javon Stokes at Visually Stoked Media about that, exactly that, how he was doing 32 cons a year. Yeah, that's like the entire East Coast.
That's crazy.
Insane. 52 weeks a year, 32 to 35 cons. And we're talking like Comic Cons, like farmers markets, you name it, he was doing them, right? Okay. And then you look at it and go, anywhere from a farmer's market is probably $50 to $100, maybe a little more.
Sure.
A convention is $100 to $500 a table, small table.
Yeah.
And he was fronting all that himself.
That's bananas. That's like $80,000 just for the booth. Not to mention food, travel, hotel, all of that. I mean, it's hard out there. It is. Yeah.
And that's what we all go through as indie creators.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people don't look at that side of the house. Like me as a media person, and this is my first year covering cons as media.
Yeah.
And I ended up with 2 back to back. I mean, granted, I've applied other years. This is just the first time they said, "Hey, yeah, sure, here's your media pass." And I was like, "Wait, are you fucking with me? You pulling my leg?" But no, they weren't. I'm actually going to cover 2 conventions as media, and I'm excited, and I'm scared, and I'm nervous.
That's awesome, man. I'm stoked for you. That's cool.
But I'm excited as hell, like just to go up there and just kill it, show them what I can do, and but yeah, that's travel, gas, hotel, equipments,
Yeah.
Because it's a whole nother type of equipment you carry. Cameras, microphones, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, was I prepared for this? Yes, but God.
Yeah.
Thankfully I've been like slowly but surely, okay, I'm building this media kit, right? This is what comes with me when I travel to go to these types of things. I've been pre-gaming this for years. And now I'm like, now that I actually have it, I'm like, oh, I actually have to purchase a few more things before I can do this. So that's an additional cost on top of it, on top of the travel, the food. And thankfully, I'm not a big eater. Well, I am, but not like in the sense of like, I'm good with a sandwich. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Give me some sandwich and some Cool Ranch Doritos. I'm good. And a Diet Dr. Pepper. I don't need a steak and lobster and all that stuff. Like, why? I can survive on sandwiches and Pop-Tarts.
Right.
Is it healthy? No.
It'll work in a pinch, though.
But it will work when you need to save a few pennies. But no, that's a great segment, dude. Thank you. That's awesome. But let's launch a Kickstarter though.
Mm-hmm.
Building enough confidence that readers are willing to commit to a planned 13-issue journey is something very entirely different than actually creating the book. How do you earn that trust from your audience while keeping them excited for the road ahead?
Yeah, I think it has to do with not doing a disservice to the reader. Not hand holding them through certain things, letting them discover some things on their own, treating the reader as the likely adult that they are.
One can hope.
Yeah, and then also, just because I'm producing an independent comic doesn't mean I'm not professional. And I think that's what's really important as well, is to, when building the Kickstarter campaign and building this book, is trying to put my best foot forward in all aspects. So not just good art, not just good storytelling, but a good Kickstarter campaign, a professional Kickstarter campaign, putting together a good trailer reel, hiring a voiceover artist, things like that, because it speaks to your character. And if people buy into you, they're going to buy into your book. They're going to buy into what you're having to say. And so I really stand on just being as professional as I can in that regard. And people can trust me for that.
Dude, I love to hear that. And those are all great points on a great Kickstarter landing page. I say this frequently, and I will continue to say it until I'm no longer in this business. How you present your book on Kickstarter, on that front page when you land on it, says everything I need to know about you as a creator. And I don't even care about the trailers. I love them. I think they're the coolest thing ever, and I always appreciate them. But when I get there, is it laid out professionally? Do you have the proof of the concept? 5 to 8 pages of your work, boom, right there on the page that people can visually see and go, this is a real thing. What's your description? What's the plan? Who's the creative team? I want to see all that stuff. Like, what's your add-ons? What's this campaign look like? When's it ending? When does it begin? Is shit spelled right?
Yeah, sure.
Did this person take that extra 2 minutes to hit spell check before they copied it out of their Word document and put it onto that Kickstarter page? Because, dude, if you didn't, you look lazy. I'm just saying it now. If you don't spell check yourself, it looks lazy.
And that's what I'm saying about holding yourself to that professional level.
100%.
Because people will notice. And mistakes get made, I get that. But guess what? You can go back and edit your stuff anytime.
Shit slips through the cracks, right? I get it. I get that 100%. And, I'm always like there's been Kickstarters that I landed on the front page and I was like,
yeah.
no, I don't think I'm going to be doing this, because you didn't take that extra 5 to 10 minutes and double check yourself to go, is this spelled right? Is my page laid out? Is stuff legible? Like, is it centered where it should be centered? Is it left aligned where it should be left aligned? Does it make sense?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to swallow your pride a little bit and go, you know what, maybe I don't know as much as I think I do, and ask to get some extra set of eyes on your campaign.
Dude, I have said it before and I'll say it again right now. If you want me to put eyes on your pre-launch page, please either send it to me in a chat. I prefer you emailed it to me at thechairman@usdnpodcast.com, and I will put eyes on your Kickstarter before anybody else does. And I will tell you if it is good or not, or if you need to go back and do some work. Have no issues whatsoever doing that. And I'll do it for free.
People, take him up on that. That's the best advice I can give you on this whole podcast.
I'm not going to edit your comic book for free, though. But if you want me to put eyes on the Kickstarter, I got you.
There you go.
But no, that's perfect, dude, because that's one of my big pet peeves when I land on a Kickstarter page.
Yeah.
Is it right? Like, is it laid out? So no, that's freaking amazing stuff there, dude. Into the Fray has successfully funded, correct?
That's right. I was 100% funded within the first 48 hours.
It was money, dude. That's what's up right there.
Amazing.
And when I wrote this question, I looked like it had funded, but I wanted to. That's why I said it as a question instead of the fact. Now I will say it as the fact. Now, Into the Fray has successfully funded. What lessons from this campaign will carry forward into future chapters of Hellstones and Kickstarters.
Yeah, I try and take something away from everything that I do. And this campaign really differed from the first one in the sense of marketing.
There's that key word. Say it again for the people in the back.
That's right. You've got to market your stuff, people. It sucks. It's not fun. Social media is a toxic place, and I don't really care for it, but you've got to work it.
Work it like your mama gave it to you, friends.
That's right. And that's exactly what I did this time around from the time before. And the lessons I'm learning now are not only, yes, absolutely market, but refine your marketing skills, know what works and what doesn't work, lean into the marketing tools that are already there. Even like Meta, Facebook and Instagram, they have built-in advertising tools. Use those, get to understand those and how they work, and they'll
I'm
work
telling you, $5 in marketing will go a long way on Meta.
Really will. It will.
And it will put it in the eyes of people who are the ones supporting these anyway.
That's
the
right.
algorithm is telling them who looks at Kickstarters, who's in the comic books. And Meta will literally take your $5 and put that advertisement into the eyes of people who are already going to be potentially back in your comic book anyway. But this is guaranteeing they're getting eyes on it.
That's
and
right.
I will say it again for the people in the back. You have to be willing to spend that $5, $10, $20 on Instagram and Facebook to get it out there. And I promise you the reach is there, and they will put it in front of the eyes of people who need to see it.
They absolutely will. They've
That's
been
the one
collecting
thing.
they've been collecting our data for years. you
100%.
tell them you want a comic book audience, they know exactly who those people are, and they will see your ad.
100%. They will make sure they see that Kickstarter advertisement that you are wanting to push out to people. And I know people like dog shit walk, Meta for everything, and I get it 100%.
Yeah.
But from a marketing and advertising standpoint, they are fantastic. And I will give, because YouTube uses Google advertisements, and I will say they also do a hell of a good job of putting your product in front of the proper eyes who are wanting to follow things like you do. Mm-hmm. So talk shit about them all you want, but give them that $15 to $20 and see if they don't put your product in front of the eyes of people who want to follow you or back your Kickstarter.
Absolutely.
Just saying that's my soapbox, and I'm off of it. We'll keep we're going to talk about building a comic universe now.
Sure.
So one thing that has stood out when I was going through your social media and stuff, even I do it, not just Meta, I do it too. You've publicly committed to telling a 13-issue story from the very beginning. When you started this journey, you said, I'm telling you 13-issue story with a prequel, which most people go, I don't know when it's going to end, 20, 25, 30.
Right.
You have said 13. Yep. That's your number. In an era where so many creators talk about building endless universes, what made you decide that Hellstones deserved a defined beginning, middle, and ending from the get-go? Just, I'm doing 13 in a prequel.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hellstones itself, like the actual stones and the world and everything is great. That's just kind of the catalyst to tell the story. The story is really about Sam. Mm-hmm. The story's about her journey, on this story arc. And that's why I was completely okay and with being 13 books and having a beginning, middle, and end to it, because maybe it's not the end necessarily of the Hellstones universe per se, but it's the end of Sam's story. We're going to tell a story, and that's what we're doing. I haven't committed myself to telling any more Hellstone stories beyond this or anything like that, but the lore is there. I'm setting up the world for it. So if someone else, wants to write or anything like that, I'm happy to discuss it or whatever at the end. But but yeah, I just had this one story that I really wanted to tell, and come hell or high water, I'm going to do
dude,
it.
dude, I love that. That's the attitude right there. I love that shit. Has knowing where this story ultimately ends changed the way you've approached writing each individual issue, or are all the individual issues done and you're just doing them now?
Yeah, so no, it's all done up to the scripted level.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's not done when I finish this Kickstarter and move on to the next book, the only thing that's not done is the storyboard.
Gotcha.
So I can pick up the script, start creating the storyboard, and start sending it off. But all of the main beats, all of the plot points, everything's there. Now, it's one of those things with a comic book that it's not done until the art is done. Things will change.
Yeah.
Just because I have 13 books and I have it all written, I have it all scripted, doesn't mean that on the day of, when I go to sit down to storyboard, something isn't going to change, because I guarantee you it will. It's not going to be anything major, but it might be an adjustment or a tweak to help.
This is one of those questions where I always ask, like, sometimes the art influences the story in some degree.
Certainly.
So I mean, that's always a factor in it too.
Yeah, you've got to learn to be flexible, for sure. And like I said before, you've got to be willing to communicate. Absolutely.
So there's a point where creating comics and running an independent publishing studio becomes two completely different jobs. What has been your biggest challenge balancing the creative side of Hellstones with everything else required to actually publish and promote it and work a full-time job?
Really, it's just for me, it's just the balancing act of all of that. Because I mean, aside from having a full-time day job, Pigmacast Studio is a full-time job in and of itself. So, I'm working, 60 plus hours a week, but I'm also a husband and a father, and I like to, try some semblance of a social life that doesn't really work out. That's usually the first thing that I sacrifice.
Yeah.
But really, it's just about juggling all of that and making sure that I'm keeping a good calendar for events, because you get lost in the weeds, especially someone with ADD. Like, if I don't write it down, it will not happen. I promise it. So it's just staying on point is the hardest part for me.
I'm laughing with you because I can't remember if it was you or if it was somebody else, but they were like, they hit me up on Messenger or on Instagram messages, one of the two. And they were like, hey, I want to book a date to talk about this comic book, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, this is great. Email me. Because this message is going to get lost in the 50 others.
Right.
Email. They're like, but we can just do it here. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Email is official. You want to officially book a date, you got to email me.
Yeah.
That way I can go, okay, here's my available dates, because I don't have those available dates on me. Mm-hmm. Or like, yep, I can do that. Here's your date. You're scheduled. Now, boom, I need all this pre-production stuff. Well, why do you need all that? Do you want to be on the show or not? Thankfully, I've not had that issue to where people just go, oh, I'm not going to send you all that. Like, well, then you're not going to be on the show, man. I don't ask for much.
Yeah.
I ask for the easiest stuff, and it's already on your computer. You just literally open an email and drop that shit in and pop it to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I got one of the easiest, like, it's the easiest shit in the world. Like, I am not asking for your firstborn because I don't want them. I don't want kids. I got one.
So it goes back again, IndieComics is like both the easiest and the hardest thing that you'll ever do, because you won't, as a creator, you're not thinking of like, oh, I got to put together a press kit.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude,
what is a press kit?
Say that really loud for me. Say that really loud, because there's so many people out there who do not have a press kit.
Yeah. It's
and I know you sent it to me, but like, again, I'm like you, dude. Yes, you sent me everything I needed and I wanted. Thank you. But in my head, I still have to send you that pre-production email. Sure. So you probably got that pre-production email twice. I apologize, but in my head, there's a checklist, and that checklist has to be done. Every step has to be done.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get the same email twice, and please, by all means, if you get that email twice, go, hey, look about 3 emails up. It's there. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Then please
you're just
disregard
doing what you got to do, you know?
Yeah. And I know, I get it. People don't like to use email. They just want to talk on Messenger and stuff. Like, that's great. I cannot operate that way.
No, me either. I prefer email.
Email is 100% because it's business and it's management of my time properly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Plus, everything is right there. My calendar is right there. Everything is right there that I need to be scheduling anyway. And like normally, like especially going later into this year in like October, I'm only doing 1 interview a week. And it's a lot of it is just me. Like I need the me time back. I need to be able to, I want to do better. I want to produce better episodes. Granted, don't get me wrong, my shit is good, right? Like I love it. But I do want to learn newer ways to do that. So I'm going to be doing some classes and editing and stuff like that. Probably going back to school here soon for journalism. And I just need some more free time to be able to pursue those things and to do more for this show.
Right.
Like I want to do some new segments I want to do about indie comics and that kind of stuff. And I can't do that if I'm spending all day, every day, as soon as I get home from work, chopping up videos and the social media associated with them. Mm-hmm. And I love to do it. Don't get me wrong. That is like my favorite aspect of what I get to do. I love this.
It's a lot though.
But it's a lot.
Yeah.
And eventually it starts to play in your health and your mental health. And you do have to pump your brakes a little bit and do what's best for you overall. So that's my mental health statement for the night. Didn't mean to give it, but yeah.
It's true, though. It's absolutely true.
It's 100% true, and it plays into what we were just talking about and just giving yourself back some time.
Yeah.
It's important, and you'll thank me later.
Right, absolutely. I'm at that point where I'm trying to get at least 1 book ahead. That way I can afford to take those moments of downtime.
Yeah.
And not feel so guilty about it.
Yeah. And it's one of those where I want to get to the point where I record a video, I download everything, I immediately start editing, I start preparing it for that post-production phase where it gets that polished, it gets polished. It gets made into the long form content. It gets made into the short form content. It gets branded. It gets all these great things. And like I said, I want to do better and be better at editing and doing the short form and the long form content and making it look more professional. Like you see so many other YouTubers have, only they're paying somebody to do it. I like money too much to pay somebody else to do something that I can teach myself or learn myself how to do. And that's what I want to be able to do.
Yeah.
And maybe someday if this starts paying me well enough, then hell, I'll get me an editor. Sure. But until then, the chairman does it all.
Right.
But let's talk about what's coming next. And it's not our mental health break or our health. Hellstones #1 Into the Fray is only the beginning of a much larger journey. Why should the Council of Nerds be watching for next from Hellstones and Pigmacast Studio?
So yeah, Hellstones itself, like I said, it's just warming up. It's just getting there. I like to tell a very character-driven story. So there's going to be moments where, like in book 1, it's fast, it's action-paced, and then, the next book is a little tidbit for you. Book 2, that's going to be a little bit slower paced. It's going to be a little more character development.
That's what I was about to say. At some point, you got to develop characters, right?
Yeah.
It's not just Sam in this story. There's other protagonists and other antagonists in the story, and you can't just drop them into the story. You got to build those characters.
Absolutely, and it's okay to kind of yo-yo back and forth a little bit.
Dude,
and,
to me,
some people might complain because they're like, I'm just here for the action. Well, you know what? Screw them. They'll catch back up.
Game of Thrones did the same thing. Come on. How many of those episodes in Game of Thrones that were an hour plus long and it was just character development? And nobody, I bitched about it because I didn't. It's like at that point, we're in season 5. I'm like, why do we have an hour episode of character development when that dude's story was developed in season 2 or whatever?
Sure.
I'm like, there's no point. We're in the final stages here. Just kill some more people, dragons, White Walkers, call it good.
Yeah,
That's how done I was with by the time we got
dude.
the season 5 of that one.
I'm with you. But Hellstones is, this first book, a lot of people are understanding what I was putting down as far as like the Indiana Jones Tomb Raider vibes, but that's not the case for the entire story. We get wild. I'm really looking forward to telling the last 3 books of this, because we really starting to get some dark, almost like horror and body horror aspects. We just got to start here at the beginning to understand how we get to the end, and it's just as simple as that.
It's no different from any other Indiana Jones movie or Tomb Raider movie. You slow, fast, slow it down a little bit more, fast again. And come on, I mean, we all watch anime. How many episodes of anime is it just like? Wait, this isn't like what? Oh, we're character developing. Okay, cool. Then I know my very next episode is going to be like all out, balls to the wall action.
That's right.
But yeah, it's one of those where the same thing has to apply to comic books, right? We it's in our movies and it's in our TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to happen at some point.
Absolutely.
Even if it's like the first 20 pages are character development, at the end of that book, it's probably going to get to that point where we're like, oh, the action is about to pick up.
Right.
And then we're off to issue 3, right? Or issue 2 in this case.
Yeah, you got it. So that's what folks can look forward to, out of me and out of Hellstones. And as far as Pigmacast Studio as a whole, Hellstones is my flagship series. That's what we're focusing on right now. I did acquire an IP for a short story about a year ago that I've been working on scripting into a one-shot, probably a 32-page one-shot.
I love a good one-shot. 28 to 32 pages, just one hell of a good story.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that. It's just a matter of just finding the right time to kind of jump in on that.
The last Ronin series just dropped a one-shot.
I see that.
Then it turned around and announced New York. I was like, dude, and it's the final, it's the end of the trilogy or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I cried during the first one. The second one, okay. Then they've dropped like a couple of one-shots in there, and they just dropped a one-shot, I think, last New Comic Book Day. And now they were like, okay, the Turtles have been run out of New York. They've done their thing. We got this one-shot last week, and now we're returning to help retake New York. I'm like, oh, dude, you motherfuckers. I'm like, do it again.
Right.
But dude, that was their breakout, man. To me, I think it resparked the love of Ninja Turtles for a lot of people, but it's neither here nor there. But anything else Pigmacast working on? Are you working on for anything for any other creators right now, or?
No, not at the moment. I had to kind of close the commission space, the freelance space for color work, so I could put my nose to the grindstone on this.
Gotcha.
But like I said, once I get to that stage to where I'm at least one book ahead, I have one in the chamber. I really want to open myself back up to that. And I try and make time just for some collaborations, just for the hell of it, because it's fun. It's something I enjoy to do. But even that's kind of few and far between lately.
Gotcha. When readers eventually reach the final page of issue 13, what do you hope they say about Hellstones and the journey that you have taken them on?
Yeah, I hope it's a deep breath and what the hell?
Dude,
I really hope that's it. I hope that's the moment.
Yeah.
I live for those moments from when I was a kid, like sitting around the lunch table and, just read the latest episode of X-Men, and I'm talking to my friends and we're going, what the hell just happened? And it sparks that conversation.
Yeah.
And that joy, and that's what I want. I want my characters to feel real. I want their decisions to have weight, and I want to make my characters to bleed, and I want the reader to question whether or not the choice that was made by that character was right or wrong. And I want that what the hell moment.
Dude, I love that.
That's what I'm striving for.
Yeah. Dude, no, that's freaking a perfect answer, man. But Frank, for everyone watching and listening who wants to support Hellstones, back to Kickstarter, and follow everything you're building through Pigmacast Studio, where can they find you at?
Yeah, absolutely. The best place to go is to go to pigmacast.com. You're going to have links to all the things that I'm up to. You're going to have all the social media links there as well. If not, you can search WFrankWalk or Pigmacast on most platforms. You'll find me. Or just Google Frank Walk or Pigmacast. You can find me on Google nowadays. I don't know when that happened, but Dude,
I was surprised my first time too. I love it, dude. Also, all those links he mentioned are down in this description below this video, and will also be on the podcast version when the podcast releases later, probably later this week or next week. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our guest, WFrankWalk, for joining us today to talk about Hellstones 1, Into the Fray, and the incredible work being done at Pigmacast Studio, which is still just such a cool name. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure you check out the Kickstarter campaign, follow Frank on social media, and support independent creators who are bringing original stories like Hellstones to life. And if you enjoyed today's interview, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss another great conversation with the incredible creators shaping the future of independent comics. From all of us here at the USDN, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people, this has been the USDN podcast, where indie comics come to life. The Council of Nerds is now adjourned. Y'all be safe out there.
It's a trap!